Well, Keith Creel, on behalf of Railway Age and Simmons Boardman Publishing Corporation, our rail group, I'd like to congratulate you on being named our 58th Railroader of the Year. Well deserved. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you, Bill. I think it's appropriate, if I can, I'd like to thank you and your staff at Railway Age for the recognition. You know, thinking about the many outstanding and iconic leaders that have preceded me, being recognized, it's humbling. I'm honored to share on that history, certainly, but for me, it's most about the 12,000 railroaders that I get the honor to serve and work with day in and day out that have made our collective success possible and continue to make it possible, even today. So with that said, thank you again very much.
Well, you're very welcome. You know, this has been a particularly tough year, as we all know, in this industry. The COVID-19 and impacts and, economic impacts. But the railroad industry in general has weathered it quite well. Speaking mainly about the freight side, the passenger side is a different story. They have their own challenges. But can you just talk just a bit about your experience this past year and how you handled this crisis? You're still handling it, obviously.
Sure. Well, unique, I guess, is an understatement. Certainly nothing in my history or career prior to that I'd ever anticipated. I would have said it's probably, you would have told me a year and a half ago this was going to happen, I'd probably say that's a polite story. It's never going to happen. But I've learned a long time ago never to say never. And this has been a challenging situation for all of us. But I tell you, when it all started as a leader, the thing I thought about most, number one, is the responsibility to protect our employee safety and our responsibility to serve the communities and the customers and serve the livelihoods that we support in this industry, and specifically at CP. So we took a step back at the very beginning. We said, listen, let's focus on controlling what we can control. And the things we can control and we have to control is protecting each other so that we can continue to serve. And that's what we focused on. We've been very intentional about doing that. Everything has been centered around that key decision of protecting employee safety so that we can continue to serve. And with that mantra and that mandate, our team went about the business of doing exactly that. And yes, we've all been in a storm. We continue to be in that storm, but the CP ship overall, I think, has fared extremely well, as has the industry. And I think that's a reflection of the commitment to safety, the commitment to people, and the commitment to serve that we all share and uniquely enjoy and have in common in this industry.
You have, going back to before your railroading career, you were in the U.S. military and you served in the Middle East. Maybe can you talk about that a little bit? And how does your experience translate to your railroading career?
It's actually the military was the segue that led me into the railway. And the leadership lessons that I learned in the military that date back to that point, the Persian Gulf War. I was very young lieutenant, early 20s, commissioned officer, stepped into, an actual war zone. We had trained for that, but never actually got to experience that. And you didn't know what you didn't know. But I learned very quickly that to be a leader, you got to earn respect. And to earn respect, you've got to treat people with respect. So that's a very valuable lesson that I've carried from my military days into my railway days, and leading by example, treating people with respect, making sure that they understand that, yes, we have a job to do, and yes, we all have to be accountable for that. But at the end of the day, as a human being, we care about each other. I care about them, they care about me, and that creates the emotional commitment, the emotional connection that's so necessary in our industry, because our industry requires so much of all of us. It's an industry that you have to sacrifice often. It's an industry that never sleeps. Our families depend upon it. The backbone of our economies depend upon it. It's a great demand, and it's also a great honor to serve. So the two married very well for me. They resonate well with my values, and that sense of service is something that obviously was required then, and it's something that's required today, that working through people and with people, leading people to accomplish something they otherwise couldn't accomplish alone or in singular, but do it collectively, is something that really motivates me, and something that in the railway industry, you get ample opportunity to engage in that.
So how did you transition from the military? What prompted you to join our industry? So obviously you've been very successful at.
Well, I tell you, growing up, when I was in the military, never dreamed of working for the railway. But as all of us have in our lives, there's certain people that open doors for you, certain connections that give you a hand up. And I had a very close friend, actually my best friend in life, that still works at the BNSF Railway, that opened up the door for me to come to work at BN and introduced me to the BN. And having a military background, shortly after the Persian Gulf War experience, the BN at that point, they were recruiting trainees, and obviously there was a good fit with my military experience and leadership experience. I had an opportunity, actually, marketing was my degree, marketing and management when I was in university. And I thought I wanted to be a marketing guy, but at the same time, I had that internal motivation to lead people. And I had an opportunity. I said, listen, if I'm going to sell the business, I need to understand the business. So perhaps from the military background, the operational background, very similar in a lot of senses. So I stepped into operations, and I've never came out. You know, it gets into your blood. Sometimes I've said it's a fine line between love and hate, because some days my job is so demanding. Our jobs are so demanding and so demanding on us and on our families. There's times you don't like it, but there are a whole lot more good days than bad. It's a very rewarding, and has been a very rewarding career that I've been blessed to serve and work with some tremendous people.
And one of those tremendous people, of course, is I guess you'd call him your mentor, Hunter Harrison.
When I went to the BN, this was in 1992, I think Hunter had already shifted and transitioned. He was at the ICs, but his legacy, obviously, given the parts of the BN I worked on the old Frisco area, which is where Hunter was from. He grew up in Memphis, Tennessee Yard. I was working in Cherokee Yard, which was the sister hump yard to Tennessee Yard, the Frisco built in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I didn't know him. I knew all about him. Fast forward 4 years into my career, the Santa Fe BNSF Santa Fe merger occurs. I had an opportunity post the merger to get closer to home. I had a young family. Mr. John McPherson, who serves now on the CSX board, used to be the Executive Vice President of Operations at that time on the IC, interviewed me, recruited me, and offered me a job in Memphis, Tennessee. And I left BN at that point, joined IC, and day one, I met Hunter Harrison. So here I am, a Trainmaster, frontline leader, frontline supervisor, entry level on the management side in operations, sitting in an office in downtown Chicago on the 21st floor of NBC Tower with Hunter Harrison, who at that point was already a legend in the industry. Little did I know how much more his influence would grow on our industry. But I'll tell you then, at that point in my life, it was a bit overwhelming and certainly something that I still remember to this day.
But obviously, he saw something in you, and in the past, of course, I had many conversations with him. He was our Railroader of the Year twice, once at the CNIC and then at Canadian Pacific. And he often talked about you, and he just said the connection. He talked about the connection that you two had, and you two could almost know what the other was thinking. You really clicked.
Yeah, Hunter was a very, very iconic visionary leader. I think we all know that and certainly recognize and respect that. You can't deny it. But I'll tell you from the very beginning, demanding is probably an understatement. Hunter demands excellence, and he effectively, if you're going to work with him, you've got to produce results. Having come from the same background, similar cultures, both being from the South, to some, his influence and his leadership style could be overwhelming. To me, he was more like the coach that you didn't want to let down, or the father, or the mentor that you have in your life you don't want to let down. So at the end of the day, that resonated with me. He challenged me mentally. He challenged me as a leadership standpoint. He continually put me in positions that in the beginning seemed a bit overwhelming, but there was a method to the madness, and it was a learning opportunity. And not only did he challenge you and put you in those situations, but he walked with you, alongside you, and worked with you as long as you could take the message from the delivery and understand what he was saying. And I did. I was able to filter that out all of the probably what some might say is the stronger personality traits he had. To me, those were filtered out, and I focused on the message. And it resonated, and it made tons of sense, great common sense. It's about doing the right thing. It may not always be the easy thing, often it isn't. But if you're willing to do the right thing, then success is going to follow. So I was blessed to have 2 decades of working with Mr. Harrison. I survived it. It was challenging. There were certain times that, you know,
Yeah.
you think maybe you're not, but at the end of the day, with Hunter, if you're going to survive working with Hunter Harrison and meet his demands, you've got to learn the way he thinks. You've got to learn what he looks at, what matters to him. And he was very predictable in a lot of ways because it was always the basics of the business. And if you're not afraid to roll your sleeves up and get to the basics and learn it from the ground up, he wasn't intimidated. If you were not, if you wanted to sort of skate at the top level and try to act as if you knew when you really didn't, then that could be very dangerous with him.
So he comes out of retirement to go to the Canadian Pacific. You joined the Canadian Pacific. Of course, you had worked with him at the CN for a number of years. And then in 2017, he leaves for CSX, which was his last assignment. And you're in charge. So what is different about the CP today that as contrasted with under Hunter? It is a different railroad, or somewhat different railroad, would you say?
I would say, Bill, it's an evolved railroad. The fundamentals and the foundation are the same. What Hunter brought to CP and what I joined Hunter on this journey to bring to CP was a discipline called precision scheduled railroading. So, we executed that operating model on the railway, and it became the foundation of the way we run the business. Now, when Hunter transitioned, we had been about fixing the company, creating a level of service, controlling our costs, doing all the things that are fundamental to our success. He transitioned out. I had several years, the last probably 2. Hunter had some medical challenges. The last 2 years he was with CP, but he was always strong, and Hunter always bounced back. But at the same time, he trusted me, and he brought me there with a mandate and an expectation if I performed, I would take over the company. That was the plan. So I had a lot of time to think about how we would pivot. And as soon as Hunter left, given where we were in our journey, it was time to pivot from being the low-cost service provider to growing. So the mandate I received from the board was to pivot to growth. And given that I had a very good knowledge of our network at that point, given I was running the operations, I knew it quite well. I had experience in North America and quite a bit of experience in the Canadian landscape with the other railway. So it didn't take a lot of time for me to put a plan together with our team collectively. Number one, create the same kind of discipline and culture of accountability within the marketing team, the sales and marketing team, as we had established in operations, and combine the two and to be partners and to take the service of the foundation of what we provide and create solutions for our customers that we could deliver on and create value in the marketplace without overcommitting, without destroying our reputations or our ability to actually run the business the way it has to be run day in and day out. So what's new today is my style is a bit different. Our fundamentals, our philosophies, our core values are the same. The company hasn't changed in that regard. We're just evolving. And quite frankly, the talent, the bench strength that we focused on, that's my focus on my legacy is about leadership and about leaving the company better than I found it. So I've spent a lot of my time over the last 2 years specifically outside of developing and working with the marketing strategy and connecting with customers, rebuilding relationships with employees, and at the same time, helping train and develop leaders that when I'm gone, I can look back and say, you know what, you'll be able to interview that next CEO one day and say, you know what, CP's really moved ahead since Keith left. What's different about the company's success? And again, I think it's going to be a story of evolution, not significant change. It's just normal growth, mature growth. As we change in this world, you change with it and you grow with it.
And there has been top line growth. I think it's widely understood that the Canadian railroads really got precision scheduled railroading right and have taken it to the next level. So why don't you talk a bit about the business growth that's occurred? Not necessarily this year, of course, has been rough for everybody. but yet it's been a good year, relatively speaking. So where's the growth coming from in terms of customers, in terms of what CP does, your customer base?
Well, yeah. So overall, number one, our growth, we've led the industry in growth. I guess it's to say growth last year, we were flat, but compared to the industry, which shrank, that was something to be excited about, that we were proud of. And even this year, we had a lot of momentum because of our initiatives that we've created. We call them self-help initiatives, customer solution initiatives into this year. But of course, this pandemic has set us all back, but we're getting back close to flat, which I think, again, is pretty phenomenal. But with that said, it's been about the strategy, Bill. We sat down when I took over as the CEO. I sat down with John Brooks, who is our Chief Marketing Officer. He reported to me prior to that as one of the two key lieutenants I had on the team. When I was running operations, they reported to me. I picked John as the leader. John clearly understood my mandate. We sat down together with a couple of other key leaders in our company and said, listen, how can we take all of the capacity we've created, play to our network strengths, and create solutions for customers so they can win in their marketplace? So we were blessed with a franchise, especially in the Canadian space, where all the key markets we serve, we have shortest length of haul. So on our best day, running on average in each of the key corridors 200 miles shorter versus our competitors' best day, we should have a superior level of service. But were we realizing it? So now that we're realizing it, how do we monetize it? Well, along the way, PSR creates a whole lot of capacity, because the old way around on the railroad is, you have a lot of cars and a lot of track, and the more business you have, the more cars you think you need, and the more locomotives and track you think you need. Well, PSR, it's about turning assets and doing more with less. So as you create longer, more efficient trains, then obviously you create capacity. We found ourselves with too many locomotives, too much track, and I've got to thank our predecessors at CP. They had the vision to do this. At every one of our locations, major metropolises in Canada, whether it's Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, or Montreal, we were blessed with land to expand. So how do we take our superior franchise, combine that with our land holdings that we have contiguous to all of our terminals, and expand our customers and create those solutions? So that's what we went about doing. And I can talk about literally each of our business units. There's a story in each and every one, because it's about how do you take what you have and make it better, whether it's the innovation, driving the change narrative in Canada about running, what successful grain franchises look like. The model 5 years ago was a 112-car grain train. You could say that's probably been a standard model in this industry for decades. Well, in Canada, we looked at it from a PSR standpoint. Is that really the best way to optimize the movement of grain? Well, no, we need to run bigger trains. So we innovated there. We've changed the narrative there. We've gone into intermodal. How do we partner with our customers? This last announcement that we've made everyone aware of with Maersk is a transformational move for this company. It's a combination and a perfect example of that, Bill, where we've taken land that's strategically located inside our terminal in Vancouver, which is one of the major metropolises in Canada, and it's also the largest import port on Canadian soil, and converted it into a partnership with the largest steamship company in the world that want to become supply chain integrators in a transload. We're literally building a transload right now, which is going to open third quarter of 2021. That's going to create a mousetrap that can't be replicated. We have a unique land, we've got a unique franchise, we've got a unique set of employees and minds to put this together with a partnership that is going to be working well for that customer, helping them grow in the world market and in their space as we grow with them for a long period of time, for many more years to come. So those kind of things are what we focused on, creating solutions that allow us to win and our customers to win. That what growth is all about in a PSR world.
We've seen quite a few examples of that in recent weeks. You and I are talking now at the very beginning of December, and just in the past couple of weeks, we've reported on several CP projects having to do with, as you just described, transloading, intermodal. We've seen records set in grain haulage. Of course, grain is very big for the Canadian railroads, but those records continue to be set So the growth is definitely there.
Yeah, it's something that it's work in progress, Bill. As we all know, these projects they're needle movers, I call them. They don't happen overnight. You plant the seeds and you start the hard work of sowing those seeds to reap the harvest a year, 2, 3 years out. So these different self-help initiatives are all coming to fruition, but they're among many that we have in. So, we announced also yesterday our plans to convert additional land holdings in Vancouver to create an industrial park, which is adjacent to that same location where we're building that transload facility. So that's an additional 100 acres that, that's a 2-3 year vision before we get shovels in the ground to be able to do this. But it takes that kind of planning. But when you are thinking that way and you're being entrepreneurial and you're thinking about how I can help the customer, how I can help the economy, and how I can help the environment win, you can lead yourself to those kind of solutions. So it's something that we're blessed with the opportunity to be able to do that and the team to be able to convert it.
So Keith, as you know, the railroad industry is in the past few years has been really almost exponentially deploying advanced technologies, which has really helped not only the operations, but the relationships with the customers and the service, the level of service. What are some of the important projects at CP, the technology projects?
That's a very good point, Bill. Safety and reliability is something that we have an obligation to deliver, and I call it table stakes. It's part of our success platform at our railway and in this industry. So that's a space that is starting to make some advancements. At the same time, when it comes to technology, I've always been one, I don't want to be the bleeding edge of technology, and I call it the bleeding edge because you throw a whole lot of money away sometimes, throw good money at bad, chasing things that never develop. But I don't want to be behind. So our approach at CP has been to take a practical approach to develop and implement. You have to be able to do both. Solutions that drive safety, which ultimately when you drive safety, improve safety, you improve reliability, especially in a railway that depends upon asset turns and velocity. And in turn, you drive efficiency. So all three together. Safety is the platform and technology is an enabler. So that's a space that the last 2 years, we've been moving and working to some things that have came to fruition as well during this pandemic that we've recently talked about that are needle movers for us. And it's taking those practical applications and implementing them. And I'll speak to two that are very material. Mm-hmm. So as you know, we're a bulk railroad. We move a lot of grain trains, a lot of potash trains, move a lot of coal trains. Well, this journey started probably a decade ago on coal trains. CP, unique in this industry, developed by using our wayside equipment detection an ability not just to measure the hot wheel bearing, which is the reason we've deployed those to protect against burn-off journals and derailing trains, but you can take that same technology and apply it to create what we call cold wheel technology, not just hot bearing technology. Mm-hmm. So when you say cold wheel technology, it's the application of those systems to measure the heat of the wheel when a train is in its braking effort. So in simple terms, you have them at the bottom of grades, and when a train is going by at track speed, that brake shoe is putting heat on that wheel, and we're measuring how much heat. Well, obviously you get a heat pattern across a train. A good braking train it will develop so much heat on a wheel. Then you can analyze and identify the specific trains and wheels in the cars that are not emitting the heat, which says the brake's not working as effectively as you need to. So we deployed that on the coal fleet. We use that as the test case. It's a closed loop system. We took the data and we drove the reliability on our brakes on our coal trains up dramatically. The bad orders went down greatly and the braking effort increased tremendously. So that same application, we said we're going to apply that to our potash fleet. And again, this is a multi-year journey, which came to fruition this year. Transport Canada allowed us an exemption for one of our brake tests that by regulatory measures we normally would have to do by using this cold wheel technology on our potash fleet. Now you marry that with another technology, which is our portal system, and other railroads are deploying them. We took a bit different approach. train can go through at track speed. It's taking, high resolution cameras. Instead of using algorithms, we're using infrared, we're using the human eye to identify safety defects. So we took that data and that test information to Transport Canada and said, listen, we're identifying 87% more defects than the human eye is when they do a walking inspection. So give us an exemption, let us prove the technology even more so we can scale it up and apply it to other fleets. So those two together, literally 2 weeks ago we started, or 3 weeks now, on our potash fleet, we have an ability to bypass a visual inspection, a safety inspection by using technology, at the same time bypass one of the brake inspections. And on that fleet specifically, when I talk about apply it and convert it, every one of those potash trains that move through that terminal that do not have to stop and do what they would have done otherwise a month ago, we're saving 3 to 4 hours dwell per train. And it's not just the impact on that train. It ripples across your entire fleet and every other train that you run through the terminal. So those kind of practical, applicable solutions that drive safety and drive reliability and drive efficiency, those are the kind of things we're focused on most at CP. And we'll continue to be focused with that same mandate and that same mantra and commitment.
Right. That's the machine vision technology, which has proven, as you just said, very, very useful. What about positive train control? Now, the U.S. lines of CP are equipped and fully functional. What is the outlook for PTC in Canada? I know that there's some sort of a initiative underway. There is no Canadian federal mandate, but nevertheless, what can we expect from CP and from the Canadian railroads in terms of PTC?
Well, listen, we're learning from our experience with the PTC that we've applied on the U.S. operation. I can tell you, by the time PTC was designed, executed, and implemented and put into service, you could say it's obsolete already. So the Canadian regulator, working in partnership with the Canadian roads, we're going to look at it, we're going to study it, but the view is not to replicate it. We want to do something that's more responsive, that's probably quicker to adapt, quicker to implement. So there's more to come on that. I don't think PTC as we know it in the US, my guess is it will never happen that way in Canada, because I do think, given that we're a decade later, there are other technologies and other strategies to deploy that can give us a greater step in safety and reliability and efficiency that you'll see us deploy eventually in the Canadian side. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, though. It's going to take a bit of time. Again, it's something that there is a focus on and something that we're paying attention to.
I wanted to talk about the history of CP a bit, and the Canadian Pacific really was, in a sense, built Canada with the transcontinental and all of the marvelous engineering that was implemented by some of your predecessors. You in particular have really paid attention to that history. It's sort of that focus on what CP means to the communities you serve, what CP means to the nation of Canada as a whole. That's something that you have really embraced. Talk about that a bit.
I think as a leader, it's important that you create vision. And I quickly realized and learned when I came to CP how much pride existed in our company. I competed against CP for 17 years, knew about CP. I knew it was an iconic Canadian company, but I didn't fully understand the history, nor did I fully understand the commitment that was tied to that history because of the pride that it represents. So you talk about a company that literally, Canada as we know it today in 1885, in partnership with CP connected the country. It connected British Columbia physically from the West to Canada as we know it as a country. So to have that woven into your fiber and to understand the history and to know how much the nation, the commerce, the livelihood of people, the communities, jobs, to connect all together, it creates a sense of obligation, a sense of commitment, and a huge sense of pride that we take seriously. So I tapped into that. When I came, the beaver, that was one of the first decisions.
Right, the logo.
Some may say
Yeah.
that was pretty simple, but literally day one, when I took over as the CEO, Hunter, we'd been on a vision to focus the company on sort of reinventing itself. So the beaver and its symbolic importance sort of faded away during those times of transition. But given that we had reinvented it ourselves, I wanted something to bring our company together because we'd gone through a lot of change. And listen, we didn't get it all right. You don't drive that kind of change that fast and get it all right. So I wanted something for people to rally around. And that beaver, that logo says so much about commitment and hard work in our history that to me, I called the corporate office. I literally remember it like it was yesterday. I called Mark Wallace. Mark works at CX now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Mark, the beaver is back. I want it put back up on the corporate office. We're going to redesign and recreate our next generation's logo. So we went out to work. I sat down with Mark's team and said, listen, this is what CP was. This is what we've transitioned with the new CP, and this is what we're going to be going forward. So it's all about not forgetting where we came from, realizing that we've got a responsibility to our past, but also a responsibility to create success in the future. And that's where our new CP logo came from. And it literally, I don't want to say it was the best decision I've ever made, but certainly it was one that resonated with our employees and exceeded my expectations. And it's something we're all very proud of.
Well, that's important, I think, to give employees a sense of continuity. Also, the younger people coming into the company, that they can feel connected in a way that they realize that they are working for a company with a great tradition, a great history. That sense of Canadian sense of national pride. I think that's important. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. It resonates with people as human beings to feel like you belong to something that's bigger than yourself, to feel like you're helping create a success that's bigger than yourself. I think as a human being, that resonates with all of us. It's the way God wants. We want to make a difference. We want to leave it better. And when you can get people around that common vision to do that and use something as a glue and as a foundation that represents all of those things, both past, present, and future, success and responsibility, I think that's a great thing. There's a very unique esprit de corps within our company. It's something I say this often, the CP family. We sacrifice for each other. We serve each other. We love each other through the good times and through the bad times. But at the end of the day, we all have to earn our seat at the table. We all have to pull our own weight. So the people that I work with and that I lead and I serve with, we all know that there's no free rides. You produce results. You do it in the right way, you do it in a respectful way, but when you do, you don't have to apologize for it. And the result is going to produce success. And that's our responsibility to each other, as well as to our shareholders and to our customers. And again, that resonates, and it's created a chemistry within the company that people want to be a part of. Success breeds success. We all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We all want to be able to one day to sit with our kids, not only provide a good living, but say, you know what I did in life mattered. I helped create something that otherwise wouldn't have been able to be created, and it's something we're proud of. To me, to create a culture that can give that to people is just as important as the success you create. It's the way, again, serving people, working with people. I just think it's the right thing, and it's the way we're all wired at CP. In this industry, meeting my wife, we all know, we all can say this, we live it. If you're going to live a railroader's life, especially if you're going to do the things we've been required to do, we've moved 13 times. She's got a servant's heart, and she's been committed to our family, and she truly is the one that has allowed me the space to do what I do and still, raised our children. Her support, we call her, we kid this, she's the real CEO in our house, and she's my closest confident advisor. So she's been a very, very pivotal person for me. And then the last thing is my sense to serve other people and my sense of responsibility that my Christian values give me. At the end of the day, we all want to make a difference in life. I want to leave it better than I found it. And this is an industry that requires great sacrifice, but gives you a great reward if you're willing to do that. So those things along the way, you know, Hunter, my wife, where I came from, and then just all the people I've been blessed to work with. You know, I could say, you know, going to work for the IC, that's when I really learned the fundamentals of railroading, working with her. But then when Hunter left, you know, CN, coming to CP, you know, I never would have imagined in my 17 years at CN, I would work for, much less lead the company that I competed so passionately against. But when I came, you know, that was, to me, that was God's hand. It was fate. And it's a decision I've never regretted. There's a lot of great people at CN. It's a great franchise. Still friends with a lot of those folks, and I'll always care about them. But my path and my purpose has been with this company, and it's something that every day motivates me to get up and do what I do. I'm really, really blessed to be a part of the success story and part of our story at CP.
Well, Keith, once again, congratulations on being named Railroader of the Year. We look forward to presenting you with the award. We're not sure at this point when that's going to happen, but it will happen. We can guarantee you that. Well deserved, for not only for you but for all the people of Canadian Pacific, and also for, in a way, by extension, you know, your customers and all the people of Canada. Really, congratulations.
Well, thank you again, Bill. The CP family, we're honored, we're blessed and humbled by the recognition.